Well, hey there, good people. Big Heavy once again, sitting in the F-150, and today we're going to attempt to fix the broken over-the-air updates. Now, relatively easy to see that you have this problem. First of all, you maybe purchased a vehicle like I did in mid to late 2021. You were promised BlueCruise, which is Ford's hands-free driving feature. Paid good money for the sensor package under the assumption that Ford would meet its promise, or at least its stated objective of delivering BlueCruise as an over-the-air update late in 2021. That then slipped to early in 2022, which then slipped to, we'll kind of get there when we get there. And BlueCruise is being rolled out to the 2021 vehicles, but if you're like me and apparently a fair number of other people, and I'm not sure what the situation is that triggered this, but a bunch of us had the over-the-air update process fail, probably in November, December-ish timeframe. And that was after Ford pushed out two over-the-air updates, one which brought the secure alert feature, I believe it's called, where if you open a door in a certain time window, it sends you a little message to the Ford app. It's kind of neat. I think they sent an earlier one that fixed zone lighting, and then they started kind of bombing big and pretty meaningful updates out there, which brought features like putting Apple CarPlay or Android Auto directions on the dash, which is something I'd like to have, which sounds kind of cool. Some minor performance fixes, and ultimately starting to deliver the elements you need for BlueCruise. So all sorts of cool stuff, but if you're like me and others, your over-the-air functionality got broken. And you can tell that it's broken if you go into the sync menu on the dash and you look at automatic updates. If all those options are grayed out, there's no way to set an update schedule, then you're probably broken. The other symptom, or the other way to verify that this is occurring, is you can go into the About Sync screen in your dashboard screen area, and you'll see that the version number for sync is blank. So those are the two symptoms, and until very recently, there was no fix from Ford. Some creative people on the internet, and I'll put a link down to the long thread below, which is summarized pretty nicely in the early few pages, so you can read those. But these people figured out that you can actually get around this by using Ford's diagnostic tool. It's called FDRS. That's Foxtrot Delta Romeo Sierra. You can Google that and find that, but it's ultimately a dealer tool that runs on your laptop and plugs into the car's diagnostics. And for those of us that were stuck on this over-the-air update, which is version 1.71, is the one that fails and kind of gets people in this death trap, you can apply some updates through FDRS, and then you get to one where you essentially stick a USB stick in the dash, which I've done, and then wait some indeterminate amount of time. And I've been waiting for 5 days. Got a little tired of that, so Ford actually, the week I started trying to do this on my own, released a fix, supposedly, for these stuck updates, which involves plugging some cables in, doing a whole bunch of nonsense, and that's supposed to kick off the USB update. So today we're going to attempt to do that. So you'll need several things, one of which is rather pricey, some of which are not. The first is a Mongoose adapter. It's essentially something that plugs into the vehicle's OBD port. I always get that confused with ODB. One is Onboard Diagnostics, one is Old Dirty Bastard. The ODB, as you can see. It depends on whether you prefer your hip-hop or your vehicle-based diagnostics, but in any event, so you need that guy. He's about $500. All the links to all this stuff are downstairs in the comments. You also need an FDRS license. They sell those in 2-day increments for $50. There's also a month license, which is, I think, $200, and then it's like $400 for a year. I've bought the 2-day license, and I'm on my second re-up of that. I think it technically lasts about 3 days, but you got a short window to work with, which makes it especially challenging with this USB update that never seems to go in, and has taken some people up to a month. In addition to those things, you need USB stick. You also need a couple adapters. Again, I'll link these below. There's a mini USB female to standard USB female that lets you plug directly into the module that gets stuck, which is called the APIM. And you also apparently need a USB to Ethernet adapter. I believe that lets you kind of ram the software into the APIM and get past that 1.71 over-the-air update and kind of jam in the next version of the software. And once that's done, you should be able to just follow the standard FDRS procedure, which is you basically plug that Mongoose module into the onboard diagnostics port, you run FDRS, and it tells you here's all the modules you need to update. I did do the first round of updates earlier following that procedure. The only comment there, which you'll see echoed everywhere, is it takes a long time, like 5-6 hours kind of long. Most of them go pretty quickly except for, I think it's the IPMA, which is the image processing module, which essentially does all the recognition of lane markers and all that stuff, which is key for BlueCruise and some other stuff. But that thing goes on forever. So don't do it when you're in a rush. Don't do it when you need to use your truck. Do it when you got a good 5-6 hours to set aside, and you can do that first round of things before you bump up against this stuck module fix, which I'm going to attempt right now. Or if you're lucky and didn't encounter that, you should be pretty straightforward to update all the modules and have your truck BlueCruise equipped. So let's go through this fix. And there is a TSB, that's Ford's parlance for Technical Service Bulletin. Those are freely available. I'll put a link down to that in the downstairs. And I'm going to essentially follow the procedure in that TSB. Never done it before. Seen a few people say that it works on the interwebs. So we'll see if it works for me and see if it gets me by this stuck 1.71 update. So let's do it. The other thing you're going to need is a power supply of some sort to keep some juice going into your F-150 while you're running these updates. It kind of runs the computers, and the car goes into this the truck goes into this special mode, I guess, where it obviously needs power to keep all the electronics engaged, but the alternator's not running, the engine's not running. So there's a recommended charger that the folks on the F-150 forum have advised that you use. I put that link in the text comments as well. For me, it was another $130 that I didn't really want to spend, so I'm using a Norco Genius 10. I believe that only puts out 10 amps. I'll put that below just because it was kind of what I had on hand. But the two keys for that are you want to connect the negative on your power supply, not directly to the battery, but to this little terminal here that goes to the battery. That has something to do with the battery management system that I don't quite understand, but I just do what the smart people tell me to do. And you want to put, if you have one of these battery charger combination devices, put that in power supply mode, not in battery charge mode. And that should give us enough juice to keep the vehicle happy during the update process. All right, so a couple things in the driver's side that we're going to be dealing with. First off is your onboard diagnostics port. I have this power supply for my dash camera, which I'll put a link to the review up there. I still love the branding on this, the infamous Rearmaster. But you can see that little white port up there. That's your diagnostics port. That's where we're going to be plugging in the Mongoose. And there's apparently a hidden plug under here that goes directly to that APIM module, which is our friend that's gotten stuck. And we're going to remove this 8mm bolt and then remove this lower panel. And then apparently the upper piece of this comes off as well. And there's some clips in there. And the general rule with these Ford clips is you want to pull them straight out. If you kind of yank them to the side or, sort of pull instead of trying to get your hand under there and popping the clip out, you're going to potentially snap the clip. So I'm going to unscrew that bolt. I've got my 8mm socket, and then try and demonstrate that while simultaneously holding this. So bear with me. All right, so that's actually a 7mm socket. So we've got a lucky 7, not an 8. So sorry about misstating that. And you can maybe see there, I've got my my kind of medium longish extension on there. I tried the shorter extension. That didn't quite work with the gas pedal in the way. So we're gonna drop this bolt out is step 1. Easy enough. And let me try and show you these little clippy guys. And you can feel where a clip is, you'll kind of feel some resistance. And try and get your fingers under there where you feel that resistance, so you're pulling kind of as close to the clip as possible. So I can feel there's one right there. I'm gonna try and get my fingers under there. And I'm trying to pull force out. There we go, not to the side or anything. You can see I've got my radio stuff in there from my ham radio install video, which I will link in the comments as well. So This guy, other than being a little bit awkward with the seat and whatnot in the way, is not too bad. One bolt and a few clips. And here's what those clips look like from the back. You can see there's little plastic tabs that go over the molded plastic. I assume if you break these, you can get a bag of them from your friendly neighborhood Ford dealer, but obviously let's avoid breaking those if we can. And now we'll get the next piece of this guy off, who is supposedly just held in with clips. All right, so next we're gonna take this top trim panel off. You can see I kind of started it and basically just jammed my fingers in there and pulled it towards the driver's door. And again, like all these panels, you kind of wanna work your fingers in there, figure out where the clip is, and just give it a pretty gentle little pull. And I'm gonna stop the video because this is a two-hand operation. I kind of wanna use my right hand over here to sort of loosen things up, and I'm gonna use my left hand to kind of get in and make sure I'm applying that straight, kind of on axis pressure versus applying something sideways and potentially breaking that panel. And then that should give me access to this magic diagnostic port that will let us hopefully get past the software update. All right, one more trick on this panel. I did get it off, but wanted to show you. Once everything popped, it's really hard to see, but this front piece kind of goes, let me get under there. This piece goes into the dash. So once you feel those last couple pops, you kind of want to pull this back towards the back seat. And it's going to come out of there nice and easy. And like all these things, it takes a little bit of force to get these clips to pop, but once you get them popped, just kind of be gentle and use your your sense of feel to figure out where the resistance is and how the panel wants to move. If it's if it feels more than a sticking clip, then I would stop and take your time. And once we get that off, here indeed is this magical connector that's going to hopefully get us blue cruising in short order. All right, guys, so we're kind of all connected now. We've got our Mongoose and the Onboard Diagnostics port. We've got all our panels removed. We've got FRDS opened. Here's the screen you'll see initially. And with, FDRS. With FDRS, you want to have the ignition to the accessory position. So I'm going to hit that. The car's going to do its kind of good morning routine. The pro tip here is make sure your headlights are turned off. Those are going to burn a lot of energy. Same thing with your climate control. So we're going to turn that off. You'll see I have my little USB stick in the dash that has the APIM update that doesn't seem to want to go in if you have that stuck OTA. So every time I go in there, it reads it, and then theoretically after a month, at some point it'll say, hey, there's an update. Would you like me to install it? And that finally gets you over the stuck OTA hump. I haven't seen that magic screen, based on Murphy's Law. I kind of half thought it would pop up now since I've got everything taken apart and connected, but didn't do that. So I've got my FDRS open. For my device, I'm going to go and select other device, Mongoose, and then I'm going to hit OK. And you can read about the vaccinations you have to go through to get FRDS licensed and do all that stuff. I won't bore you with that. But once you get in here, I'm going to read my VIN from the vehicle. There we go. And I'm going to say go. And that's going to go and scan the vehicle. That's going to check if there's any updated modules or anything like that. And this will also allow me to do the Ford stuck OTA fix, at least theoretically. A couple things to look for here. Down the lower right corner, you'll see I'm connected to the vehicle. I don't know what that little cellular looking signal thing means, but battery voltage is important. I've got 12.9 volts. You want to keep that above 12.5 while it's doing all this update stuff. So right now it's running a network test, reading all my modules. I will say, the Mongoose is $500. That's pretty steep, but that's the cheaper option. The official Ford diagnostic tool, I think, is a couple grand. You can't use those $20 imported Bluetooth little USB readers or ODB readers. Unfortunately, you got to go with the Mongoose. Seems to be the cheapest, most reliable option for doing this kind of stuff. So I'll pause the video until we get to the magical update screen and we'll see what happens there. According to the TSB, theoretically, it's going to tell me if I need to either plug into the USB of the vehicle or do some stuff with the Ethernet. So that'll be kind of interesting, and we'll see how that goes. All right, so FDRS read everything from the modules in my truck, and now, according to the TSB, we're going to do this procedure and see what the heck happens here. And I've never done this before. I've never seen a video of it, so we're both learning as we go. So this may be a little bit of an interesting video, because who knows what's going to happen. So TSB says to run this module update repair procedure. So we're going to hit download. That I assume goes up to Ford's servers and gets some diagnostics. So obviously you need a connection of some sort here, some sort of Wi-Fi or whatever to your vehicle. And looks like it downloaded that. So now I'm going to run. And we shall see what happens. Per the APM and TC will not program before any updates. Who needs special USB? It also requires you administrative rights. Yes, I do. Ignition to on, engine off. We're already there. Okay. And this is the typical screen where you'll see these kind of various project or progress bars. Some go really slowly, some go relatively quickly. And we'll see what this one does. So, programming ECG. So lights went off, dash went off. That's pretty typical. And it says we failed. And now it sounds like the vehicle is coming back on. So I'm going to say, sure, I wish to retry and see what happens. And you'll see when the mongoose is doing something, it's got this little blinky red light. Reprogramming has failed. So I'm not going to retry, and I'm going to reread my TSB and see if I can figure out what's going on there. Ignition to off. All right, and looks like the ignition's already off. Failed to flash, okay. So this looks a little bit, there we go. All right. So after those, okays, the car came back to life, so that's good. We've got 911 assist unavailable. That's not unexpected. And USB error. Never seen that one before, so that's kind of interesting. So I'm going to turn the ignition off and on, and we'll try that again. All right, so I told you this was going to be a bit of a work in progress. So what I did was remove my USB stick. Wonder if that might have affected things based on that USB error that we got. I'm going to hit the ignition on. Again, engine's not running. I'm going to turn the headlights off, because every time you restart the vehicle, the auto headlights come on. And let's run this module update repair once things boot up. I'm going to wait till the little Ford logo goes away. All right, that guy seems happy once again, which is good. And let's run this puppy. Yes, I wish to continue. Ignition's on, engine's off. Copy data. So it looks like maybe we're going a little farther. So that's good news. So apparently don't put a USB stick in there when you're running this. Vehicle just restarted. Do the headlights come on? I don't think so. So nothing too unusual on the vehicle right now. Checking APM. So now it says it's programming. Vehicle is shut down once again. And theoretically, it's going to tell me that I need to connect some sort of USB contraption, either that Ethernet adapter or just straight USB into the vehicle. So we'll see what it says there. Ignition to off, that has already occurred. Ignition to off, that has already occurred. Oh, maybe not. All right, everything's turning on again. A little janky on the Ford Tough. All right, looks like everything is reset. So now we're gonna turn off the ignition. And I like to give it a couple seconds between all these off and ons just to make sure everything's kind of shut down and done its thing. All right, this process requires a special driver. If you've not previously installed the driver, please click the link below and run the utility. All right. Nothing I like more than running random utilities, especially from unknown publishers. All right, we've got fast boot driver. Looks like we're installing all kinds of goodies. Thanks, Ford. All right, so we've been sitting here spinning for a good minute on this web link tab. I'm gonna go back to the module update tab and hit continue, and we'll see what happens. All right, module repair update running. All right, so that was a little weird that it did a little tab dance, but in any case, make sure the necessary USB cable from PC to vehicle is connected as required. Refer to the appropriate piece TSB for further details. So I'm going to assume that this is just using the Ethernet cable. So I got my little adapter guy here that's going to plug down into this plug, and I've got a male USB to male USB. Looks like I should not have ordered the 1.5 foot version. I probably should have gotten the 3 to 6 foot version, but such is life. So I'm going to get this connected up and then hit the OK button. So I'm going to pause this because I need 2 hands. All right, I've connected this. You can see there's the Ford official plug, unplugged it from what I believe goes to the APIM USB. Got my adapter, got my USB male to USB male, which is too short, so I'm now on the floor. And I'm gonna hit the magical OK button and see what the heck happens. Engine on. This will be helpful when it moves the seat. And once again, I'm gonna turn off the headlights. And I'm gonna move this cable so I don't run over it, and let's see what happens here. Establishing comms. Fast boot. So it looks like the sync screen just went out, so presumably that's a good sign. That means it's doing something over there. Flashing. Resetting, and theoretically this should do nothing more than allow us to actually read the update from the USB stick. At least that's the theory. Make sure the necessary Ethernet adapter and cabling from PC to vehicle is connected as required. All right, so I'm gonna pause and we're gonna goof around with some cables again. All right, so to make this a complete and utter comedy of errors, this is the Ethernet to USB adapter Ford recommended. I happen to have a relatively short Ethernet cable in hand, and I just realized, and I should have checked this, my laptop doesn't have an Ethernet port. This is kind of the kid's laptop, didn't even think to check that. I just happen to have this multi-guide Ethernet thing with a USB plug at the end. I hope this works. I mean, we're going USB to Ethernet to USB, and this is just sort of a janky mess. So I'm gonna connect up this bizarre contraption and we'll see what happens. All right, so this hot mess is connected. We've got an old tissue down there. Let's get rid of that. And let's see if this crazy thing actually works. We can kind of see the blinky blinkies on there. God, I hope this connects. I don't know what happens if it doesn't. Green, so I guess it's at least got a link. Got green, so I guess it's at least got a link across these two. Do you want to do things? Sure. Why not? In for a penny, in for a pound, I guess. Or maybe that's not the way you say that quote, but okay, deleting sync database. That sounds okay. Deleting sync database. That sounds like something's happening. Hopefully something good. All right, GWM is the gateway module. That's apparently the thing that gets everyone stuck and kind of screws up that 171 update. TCU, I can't remember what that stands for. TCU, I can't remember what that stands for, but my friend's mom used to always keep a bin full of snacks from Hostess, and we had a Twinkie containment unit, which we called the TCU, so maybe there's some hidden Twinkies in here somewhere. All right, disconnect the Ethernet adapter and cabling from PC to vehicle and reconnect the vehicle harness cable connection. All right, we're gonna pause. I think that means we remove this janky thing and plug these guys back in, so let's do that. Okay, world's most convoluted adapters have been removed, and we're gonna hit the OK. I left my little Ethernet. I've left my little Ethernet adapter plugged into the laptop. I don't know if that helps or hurts me, but all right. So far, nothing's changed in the vehicle. Okay, no. Doesn't look like anything's happening in the Mongoose, but yeah, hopefully things are resetting inside. Module reset process. Still nothing interesting happening in the vehicle. All right, sync just rebooted. Twinkie containment unit is rebooting apparently. Voltage is dropping a little, which I don't really like. That's kind of the challenge of this adapter, but hopefully he will go off of it. Fault codes. The other thing about, all right, ignition off. Let everything shut down. Gotta move the laptop back up to the seat. All right, so I relocated back to the seat, turn the ignition off. We're gonna say okay. Module update was successful. Perform any updates on the TCU and APIM as required. So what I'm hoping is that means I stick this USB key in, turn on the ignition, and it's going to tell me, hey, you've got updates, and we're gonna see some magic happen. So I'm going to pause the video, rearrange things a little bit, and we'll give that a try. All right, so I clicked OK after it told me to turn the ignition off, so the application's finished, and now this dude supposedly has the magical APIM update that's going to fix my my challenges. So I'm gonna plug him back in. You know, obviously I put this plug back in, wouldn't want to forget to do that. And I'm going to turn on the vehicle and theoretically sync, and I've never seen this because USB updates have never actually run, but sync should tell me I have an update and it should do some magic for me. So turn it on, turn off the headlights. See if it reads that USB. This guy has a little red blinky on there, so that should tell me something. So far it hasn't hit the USB. Nope. Just gave me a little bit of a blink. All right, now we're doing some action. USB error. Okay, thanks for that there, friends. So that's a little bit of a kick in the cojones. So I think I'm going to have to rebuild my USB stick. The update failed because an error has occurred. Thanks. All right, so we're gonna shut things down and then I'll show you how to do this APIM update in case you care. Actually, we can do that right now. All right, so I'm set up to try this APIM update again since I got my USB error. And they being the lovely people on the internet, say to do this with your door closed. So close my door, ran my extension cord in, so my laptop's got juice. They say to format your USB stick to Let's format to FAT32, or sorry, XFAT. So I've got that set to XFAT. Let's call this APIM, just for giggles. Do a quick format, start. Yes, we're going to erase everything. Yes, that's new. And then we're going to unfortunately have to download all the APIM stuff again. So to do updates generally, you go Toolbox, Software Updates, and we're going to download APIM. This is going to connect to the vehicle, and it's going to tell me I need a whole bunch of USB stuff. Yes, we're connected to a battery. Yes, we're in a good location. Yes, life is beautiful. And for some reason, that's about 3 gigs of updates. It takes like, let's call this stuff. It takes a good while to download, and then it takes just a stupid amount of time to copy it to the USB stick for reasons I don't understand, but we'll get that going. Blank, we format XFAT at 64 gigs, insert it. Okay. And it's APIM. And there we go. So you can see how long it takes to copy 1 megabyte. I'm going to let this guy sit here and crank while I do something constructive with my life. So yeah, I don't know how, this is a USB 3 stick unless I got some knockoff on Amazon. I don't know why it's so slow, but it is, and we'll let it roll. All right, so after a unnecessarily long period of time, this guy says to turn the engine on and the ignition on. Seeing conflicting reports on whether you actually need to turn the engine on or not, but I'm going to do that. The other thing I did was I turned off Wi-Fi on my phone so it doesn't try and connect to CarPlay, which I have no idea if that will help or hinder, but maybe it'll at least make the display show less stuff. So gonna pause, start her up, and see what's next. All right, so the vehicle is running, appears to be in hybrid mode. Ignition on, engine on, sync is booted up, and we're gonna say, okay. Move USB, insert into vehicle slot, software update will automatically install. So you can see all this good stuff. And let's see if we actually get the magic. So I'm going to eject this USB stick. And let's pop her in and see if we get the magic that we're hoping for. All right, so USB stick is in. APIM detected, that's what we named the USB stick. Indexing. Complete. We're still doing the blinky blink on the stick. Hopefully that's a good sign. And so far, a whole lot of not much. Software update will automatically install, says the machine. We're not getting the... Oh, okay. Now I got some action. Keep the USB drive plugged in until the system prompts you to remove it. Driver vehicle while the update completes. All right. That sounds lovely. Doesn't look like it's reading anything, but now we have a little waiting game, I guess. At some point on the screen, it should tell us that that things have updated. Oh, and now we're getting the blinky blink. So I'm going to stop the video. System updating. That's what we've been waiting for the last week. All right, cool stuff. I'm going to stop the video and we'll see what happens next. All right, so it's 5-6 minutes later, still doing system updating. Looks like it kind of copies a file over, then does some stuff since the USB will stop doing its blinking routine. During this, I mostly reinstalled those trim pieces in the center console. I say mostly because I didn't want to screw that last screw in since it's by the gas pedal and the vehicle is running now. Obviously it's in park. It wouldn't go anywhere if I tap the gas, but just better to be safe than sorry. Putting those things back in was fairly straightforward. I will say on the top trim piece, there's a tab on the end that's covered with some cloth. Slide that guy in. Again, you have to kind of go from the back of the vehicle towards the front to slide that piece in. Should be nice and easy. You shouldn't need to force it. And then once you get that done, kind of line everything up. And then if you give a gentle push where each of those tabs are, they should pop right back in. Don't want to force anything. I did have to move it around a little bit till it found its alignment, and you kind of feel the trim piece kind of being finding its home, so to speak, and then just went back and pushed, and all those clips popped right in. Same thing on the lower trim panel. Just that guy, you don't really have to go forward or aft. You just have to get it lined up. You do have to work around the seat a little bit, and then get things aligned and push those pins in, and they will pop right back in. So we'll see if this update finishes. So far, we're 5-6 minutes into it, but seems to actually be progressing, which is new and exciting. Now, while we're system updating, I did want to share, we actually have a version number now. So that's pretty exciting. I think that means we've gotten out of OTA update hell. So hopefully once this APIM update goes through, we'll be back in action and can get the rest of the software for BlueCruise. So exciting stuff. All right, big news. Complete the update, restart the vehicle. So I'm going to close, turn this guy off. Let's let everything go away. Okay, so it looks like that guy's more or less shut down. We'll let the trip summary go away. Wasn't a very exciting trip. Then let's turn her on. Oh, and just to show you, I left FDRS running. Here's the steps here. So we have gone through everything, and we're going to turn on the vehicle. I'm not going to remove the USB yet because I've not been instructed to do so. So let's see what happens. All right, a blank screen is presumably a good thing. And now we've got weird Ford Tiny Dancer. Hopefully that is not permanent. All right, back to the big screen. Apologies for my reflection, but I want to show you what actually happens and kind of how long some of this stuff takes. We got some USB reading going on here. All right. Not seen a message to remove the USB yet, which is what I'm eagerly awaiting. Okay, vehicle location data. Yeah, that's lovely. Let's see if the version updated. All right, the version did indeed update. So I'm going to go ahead and assume that was successful and remove the stick. And I believe FDRS will ask me to put it in, and then it sends something to the mothership that basically says, hey, all is well and we were updated. So, oh, an Android Auto logo is different. So let's give that a try. So I'm going to pull out the stick. Boom. Did the update install successfully? Yes, we believe so. Turn ignition off. Okay. Turn the ignition to on. All right, this is fun. I'm gonna let everything boot up for a second. And say, okay. And we're validating. All right, so I guess it's not gonna read the USB stick. It's gonna check the vehicle itself, make sure we have the new software versions, and then send something to the mothership that hopefully says, all is well. Unable to communicate with the vehicle. Check all connections. Make sure my, yes, I would like to retry. All right, so let's do a little bit of the USB shuffle. Make sure my mongoose is there. I'm gonna reconnect it down here too, just to double check. All right, we got green. Plug that back into the laptop. Yes, I would like to retry. For some reason, I'm not connected down there, which is... Oh, we got some action. Confirm that's updated. Configuring. Sync turned off. Rest of the vehicle's on. Sync's doing a little reboot. So, things are happening. Turn ignition to off. Application finished. So this is big. This should mean that we are through the dreaded stuck OTA. And hopefully this should also mean that FDRS is going to send this up to the Ford mothership and we'll be back in business. So next step after this is I'm just going to let the car sit for 5-10 minutes and kind of digest what we just did to it, let the battery charge up a little bit, and then I'm going to run the next series of updates, which I believe next in the queue is the gateway module, and then we'll go from there. Well, hey there, good people. It's a good 24 hours since I ended the last video and let my truck sit overnight, and I'm finally up to date. I've rammed in dozens of updates, watched probably 100 progress bars move ever so slowly, turned the truck on and off, dozens, if not hundreds of times, and wanted to give you a few caveats I hit along the way, as well as kind of a review of whether or not you should do this yourself. So first, the caveats. Number one, you obviously need to power the truck while it's doing all this stuff. You're going to have the vehicle on and all the electrical systems running while you're doing software updates, and that's going to burn a lot of juice. So get yourself some sort of 12-volt power supply. I'll put a link to one that was recommended in the text below. I'll also put a link to the one I used. I think the one I used only delivers maybe 10 amps. The recommended one delivers 30. But if you do have a battery charger that has a power supply function, that might get you by. Mine was able to get you by. I wouldn't recommend, if you don't have anything like that, buying the one I used. But, the one I used was what I have on hand. I generally use it to charge batteries versus be a 12-volt power supply. So, run what you brung, or if you can't brung anything, then maybe consider that recommended one, since that seems to have worked for a lot of people. So that's point number one. Point number two, be prepared. This thing's just going to take a long, long time. I frankly don't know how dealers are going to deal with this. I'll talk about that a little more in the pros and cons, but it's a long time of hurry up and wait. So, you're running updates, you're watching things download. For some reason, and it doesn't appear to just be me, I've checked with some other people, but FDRS just copies files to the USB stick painfully slowly. And it's really strange because when you put the stick in the vehicle, it downloads really fast. I think a couple of the updates, particularly for the APIM, are hundreds of megabytes, if not a couple gigabytes. The first big one's 3 gigs, and that probably took 45 minutes for FDRS to copy to the USB stick. And then once I put in the truck, it took, I'd be shocked if it was 5 minutes, if not less, to download that and run the update. So just be prepared for, real goofy things that you feel like shouldn't take that long, taking a really long time. The other couple of caveats, when you do these USB related updates where you plug in your laptop, you run FDRS, it does some magic, downloads a bunch of stuff to the USB stick painfully slowly, as I just mentioned. Then you put the stick in, your display will eventually say, hey, don't take it out, we're going to do some updates. And then once that's done, it'll tell you to restart the vehicle. I got a little, greedy or impatient or whatnot earlier on, and I would immediately restart the vehicle. And in a lot of cases, the updates didn't seem to fully go in. And it didn't adversely affect anything. Just when FDRS would do the validation, it would say something failed, or some of the modules would show up orange. So what I did and what I would recommend, and I talked about a little before, is let the vehicle shut down, take the key away, and just watch that little blue light on the USB ports in the rear seat. Once that goes out, the truck's kind of gone to nap time mode. And then once I restart it from that point, after, generally I don't think it took much longer than a couple or 3 minutes, it would say on the display that the update was complete, remove the stick, and then you could run the FDRS validation procedure. I would leave the laptop plugged in where it has the steps to the USB update. And at that point, it would ask, did the update successfully complete? You say yes, and it talks to the truck, it verifies that everything was loaded, and then gives you the option of doing the next update. The other thing related to shutting down the truck, on one of the early gateway module updates, which is the GWM in FDRS, I got this strange failure to communicate error. And it was after loading the USB update. And no matter what I did, I kept getting it. I left the truck for good half an hour, unplugged and rebooted the laptop a couple times that was running FDRS, and I would just immediately get this communications failure error. And I talked to some other folks on the amazing interwebs and found somebody else that had the same problem, and they said, let the truck sleep overnight. And as somebody that works in technology and has been involved in technology for a long time, that sounds like the dumbest thing ever, but it actually did work. So I left the truck alone last night, came out this morning, and the update went flawlessly. It validated it, and I was off to the races. So I don't know if that's, the truck going into like a super deep sleep mode, and it needs to kind of get to that comatose state before that update can actually install effectively. I don't know if the truck, after sitting for 6-7 hours, sends some update to Ford and something happens on their end. I don't know if, Ford in its command center does some nightly software update that kind of checks some box somewhere in their systems and allows the updates to proceed. But if you do get that communications error, it looks and sounds in FDRS like it's something terrible, and your heart may sink and you may feel like you totally borked up your truck. But just leave it alone. You can still drive it around. Everything works fine. And then just let it kind of rest for the night before you try doing any other updates. With those caveats out of the way, would I recommend doing this procedure? And I started down this path before the TSB, that's Ford's Technical Service Bulletin, came out, giving you a procedure to kind of jumpstart the update process. When I bought all this, the common wisdom said, go as far as you can, and you'll get to that first APIM update on the USB stick, and basically just leave the USB stick in the truck and drive around. And, for some people within a day, the truck would update. For some people, it took a month. And, frankly, I didn't want to wait that long. I drove around for a week and nothing happened. So, I figured, hey, I've already got the Mongoose. I've already got all this stuff. Let's try following the TSB procedure. So if you're impatient, basically, that's probably the reason why you might want to do this update procedure. The parts are relatively easy to get. Most dealers I know, at least around here, are backed up, a month or so, and this is going to be a long procedure. So I imagine they'll book you pretty far out. So this moves you up. The other dealership element and the other pro for doing this yourself is I can't imagine dealers are going to go through and install every single update and get you up to BlueCruise level. That's speculation on my part. I've never worked in a car dealership. Maybe they have one guy or gal that just does software updates and can get 10 trucks going and just bounce between them all day long and drive a lot of throughput that way. But having a relatively expensive resource that's certified to work on these complex vehicles, sitting there watching progress bars, turning trucks on and off, taking USB sticks in and out, just doesn't seem like something that's that a dealership's going to invest in. So I would imagine that they'll do that first update in the technical service bulletin, which gets you to PowerUp version 1.71. I think there's maybe 6 or 8 PowerUps after that. You can look on a Wikipedia link, which I'll put downstairs, and actually see all the different PowerUps that went out. That will get you unstuck basically, which is great. It'll get you to 1.71, which has some cool features, particularly the navigation directions in the dash from CarPlay, which I like a lot. But you're going to be relying on Ford to do over-the-air updates for everything else. And they've got to go through that, 6 or 8. And again, don't currently work with or for Ford. Don't really know anyone there that's told me anything about the OTA stuff. So, one speculative theory on my part would be once you get that 1.71 update, your truck's gonna, talk to the ivory tower in Dearborn. And incidentally, it's not an ivory tower. It actually looks more like Darth Vader, but that's a digression. So maybe your truck sends a message up to the mothership, and the mothership says, hey, let me get you the next update queued up, and sends it down tomorrow. And over the course of 5 or 6 days, you're up to date, which would be super cool. Or maybe your truck sends a message saying, hey, I'm over the 1.71 hump, and then some, lovely human in Ford has to actually go in, find all the VINs that are in that state, and manually schedule updates. If they are doing that, I assume they're going to stagger them so they're not pumping out, 4 gigabyte updates to thousands of trucks every day. So, if that's the case and it's an administrative and throughput issue on Ford's behalf, it may be months before you get those six updates down. So basically, it all comes down to you do this if you're impatient. In terms of skill set, tools, complexity, all that stuff, this is where I get a little mixed. The actual hand tools that you need are very straightforward. It's a wrench, the 7mm socket, and and your meat hooks to take those trim panels off. If you can hook up a battery charger, I think you can handle the electronic and mechanical part of this procedure. But you are messing with the brains of your vehicle. You're updating all these modules. Theoretically, something weird could happen. You could have a short somewhere. You could, run out of battery charge. Who knows what could happen? But if one of these modules dies during an update process, I don't know if that leaves your truck undrivable. I don't know if that means you got to take a module out. The modules are expensive, I assume. I haven't priced any of them. They're also in short supply, I would assume, with all the chip shortage stuff and Ford's, inability to build trucks of the volume they'd want. So you're potentially up the creek there. It's also just sort of a bizarre process. I mean, FDRS is designed for an automotive technician, not for you and me necessarily. User interface isn't great. You kind of hit these little errors and these messages that don't make a lot of sense, at various points during the update process. I would have modules go gray, which means they weren't talking to the FDRS. Or I'd have them go orange, which means something was apparently off. And then I just kept plowing forward with the updates, and eventually everything turned green and was lovely. It's just kind of a weird and seemingly fraught process, and doesn't necessarily make a ton of sense. That communications error that magically fixed itself by letting the thing sit overnight is just kind of bizarre. And you've got to be prepared to have a good couple days at home, I would say, where you can babysit this thing. I was obviously doing other stuff. I was doing calls. I was doing work, and I'd just kind of poke out into the garage and make sure everything was going. But if you didn't have a garage, if you didn't have a place where you could securely update your truck that was potentially dry in case it rains, there's updates that are going to take 3-4 hours where the thing's just sitting there pumping data into your truck, and you can't go anywhere. So that's kind of the thing. I mean, it's stuff that literally a 6-year-old could do. Again, the technology piece is plugging something in and hitting OK a whole bunch of times and taking USB sticks in and out and formatting them. So there's nothing technologically complex or mechanically complex. It's just kind of this house of cards type procedure where, it feels like if something goes wrong, it could go really, really wrong. And I don't know what a dealership's going to do if you say, hey, can you flatbread my truck in because I fried one of the modules. It's, kind of a one that's hard to recommend doing it yourself. It's not difficult, but I would imagine if something goes awry, then it could be difficult. So if you are impatient, if you've got, I'm into this for almost $600, I guess. The Mongoose is $500. I did two-day FDRS licenses, so that's $100 there, $50 for each 2-day. And then, $30 for the miscellaneous cables and dongles and stuff to get over that 1.71 hump. So, kind of on the fence there. I think I can probably resell the Mongoose and recoup most of my dough. But, I can't recoup the $100, $150-ish with all the adapters and the time that I've invested in this. So that's your decision process. I haven't gotten the official Activate BlueCruise email yet, which is why I embarked on this cavalcade of whimsy, but I will do a quick review of BlueCruise. There's hundreds of them out there. We'll make it 101, and I'll let you know what I think. But that is the procedure to get your F-150 2021 truck that is in OTA limbo, out of OTA limbo and back in the world with the latest and greatest software, and hopefully BlueCruise. So hope you enjoy this. Realize it's not the most dramatic or exciting video. You probably watched a lot of progress bars, which I will most definitely speed up in post, but I was kind of curious as to the procedure, and hopefully this will at least give you some confidence if you do try and attempt it yourself. Again, links downstairs to all the stuff you need, and good luck. I hope BlueCruise is as awesome as I think it will be, and I hope Ford gets its proverbial stuff together on these over-the-air updates, because I do think it is, they are adding some nice little usability features. It's either my imagination, the placebo effect, or reality, but the truck does seem to run a little better, does seem to be getting a little better fuel economy since I've done some of these updates. So, they are nice, and they do seem to add legitimate functionality, not just cruft. So this is the Big Heavy, wishing you happy trails, safe driving, and peace, prosperity, and delight out on the roads of reality and of the metaphorical life itself. So, peace. Ever wonder why every talking head on YouTube asks you to hit the like and subscribe button at the end of their video? You were right, because we're living in a computer simulation. And our benevolent robotic overlords get just a little bit of energy every time you hit that like. So do me, the rest of civilization, and our benevolent robotic overlords a favor. Mash that subscribe, be kind to each other, keep living your simulated dreams.